Hey, welcome back. Excited to be with you guys again today. Excited to share this message with you about the greatest gap in the world. How many of you remember Evel Knievel? Now, I'm really dating myself, right? Evel Knievel, if you don't know him, he was a former motorcycle thief turned daredevil. Probably best known for his Star-Spangled Banner outfit and jumping his motorcycle over the fountains at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas that ended in this crazy, spectacular, bone-breaking crash. I think he broke every bone in his body. In 1999, Robbie Knievel, son of Evel Knievel, jumped the Grand Canyon, soaring 228 feet across the narrowest part of the canyon. The Knievels were known for spectacular jumps over crazy gaps that included cars and fires and canyons. A gap is that space between where you are and where you want to go. How we perceive that gap and what stands in that gap often impacts whether we'll attempt to bridge that gap or not. For the Knievels, a determining factor in deciding if they were going to jump the gap was their confidence in the vehicle that they would choose to ride that would carry them the distance over the gap. The first step to jumping or bridging the gap started with the belief that they could do it. And we're going to come back to that thought in a minute. Let's make this personal. Are you where you want to be in your life? Have you accomplished all that you've set out to accomplish? And in other words, have you arrived? For me and for most of us, the answer is easy. It's no. It doesn't mean we're dissatisfied with where we are. It only means we know and believe that there's more. Now, if you spend any time with me, around me, or in this community, you're going to hear me say this so often it's going to drive you crazy, but I believe it. You were created for more. More future, more destiny, and more hope. More influence and impact you were created to have on the lives and the world around you. The key is discovering what your more is and then having the courage and developing the strategy to go get it. So why do some people seem to reach their more so much easier than others? I think it begins with what we talked about, belief. It is what allowed the Knievels to take on all those death-defying stunts. Without a belief, they'd never accomplish it and they never would have started. Gaps, like the space between the launching ramp and the landing ramp, are everywhere in our lives. These gaps can be scary places that look impossible at first to bridge. Can you imagine what Evel Knievel thought the first time he came to Snake River Canyon? Or what Robbie Knievel thought as he assessed the gap he was going to jump over the Grand Canyon? Oh my goodness. We all have gaps in our lives, and if you believe you are not where you want to be in your life, then you're going to have to face that gap. Gaps aren't bad things, but they can be scary, and they are real things that we must bridge if we want to experience our more. So what are some of the gaps in our lives? It'd be a worthwhile exercise for you to make a list of what you perceive the gaps or obstacles are in your life that are keeping you from the other side, your more. Here's 3 common gaps that we all face, and I've taken some of this from the John Maxwell book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It's from the chapter, The Law of Intentionality. He talks about a timing gap where it's not the right time to begin, or someday I'll get to it. Do me a favor, look at your watch and tell me where someday is on your watch. The second gap is the mistake gap that he talks about. We sometimes call the mistake gap this place where we have a fear of failure. When we live in this gap, we may never fail, right? But I promise you, if you live in that gap, you're very rarely going to succeed at anything significant. The third's the inspiration gap, where we say, I don't feel like doing it. The problem with feelings is that they are always real, but not always based on a truth. If you wait to feel like doing something, you may never do anything. Of all the gaps you can think of, what do you believe is the greatest gap in the world? I think it's the gap between knowing and doing. We tend to fill our minds with information. We grow our knowledge base. And this is critically important and necessary. We should always be learners, right? But learning is the first step to living and leading. The challenge or gap is not with what we know. The challenge or gap is found in what we are doing with what we know. We're not in need of more information. What we need is the revelation of that information that causes us to act, engage, and turn that information into transformation. We bridge gaps not by knowing more, but by rather taking action on what we know. Don't get overwhelmed at the size of the gap. Now let me leave you with 2 things you can do today to begin to bridge the gaps in your life and reach the more you were created for. First, visualize the landing ramp, the destination. Make sure it's clear. How will you ever know you arrived if you can't define or see where you're going? Once the destination is clear, it's time to start moving. It's like eating the elephant one bite at a time, right? If you can't do it all, start small. Don't focus on the gap, focus on your future, where you're headed. Once you have the destination clear, you can then build the roadmap, the strategy necessary to get you there. And then the second thing is face your fears. Identify what that fear is. What have you believed about yourself, your circumstances, your environment that's limiting you and keeping you stuck right where you are? So you've got to decide which emotion is greater, the desire to reach your destination or the need to hold on to your fear. So my friends, I want to thank you again for sharing your time with us today. If you're blessed today, help us build a community by sharing this with a friend. So until next time, I'm Rick Torson. I'm believing your best is yet to come. My friends, you were created for more future, more destiny, more hope. Don't let those gaps in your life keep you from your more.